The alarm screamed through the medical bay of Station Epsilon 7. Red lights flashed across the white walls. Dr. Wellness looked up from his desk, his antenna twitching with concern. His insect-like body moved quickly across the room on 6 legs. "Emergency in Docking Bay 7, Nurse Talrix announced. Her forearms moved fast, preparing the medical equipment. Her amphibian skin changed from blue to worried purple. "Cargo accident. 1 injured." "Prepare the hover stretcher," Wellness said. His voice made clicking sounds when he spoke. "Get the trauma scanner ready. How bad is it?" "Unknown. They just said to prepare for critical injuries." Talrix's large eyes blinked twice. She had seen many accidents in her 10 years at the station. Cargo accidents were usually bad. Very bad. The medical bay doors opened. Wellness expected to see the emergency team rushing in with a stretcher. He expected to see someone lying down, unconscious, maybe dying. That was how it always worked. Critical injuries meant unconscious patients. Instead, a man walked through the doors. He walked on his own 2 feet. His boots made heavy sounds on the floor. His gray cargo uniform was torn and dirty. Blood stained his shirt and pants. His face was covered in sweat and dust. But he was walking. Wellness stared. His medical mind could not understand what he was seeing. "Hi," the man said. His voice was tight with pain but steady. "I think I need some help. My leg is really starting to bother me." You walked here?" Talrix dropped the medical scanner. It clattered on the floor. "Yeah." The man limped toward the examination table. Each step looked painful. But he kept moving. "The cargo bay is pretty far from here. Took me a while." Wellness finally moved. His training took over. "Lie down, now. Do not move anymore." The man nodded and carefully sat on the table. He winced, but made no sound. Slowly, he lifted his legs up and lay back. "Sorry about the mess. There was a lot of dust in the bay." Talrix picked up her scanner with shaking hands. She ran it over the man's body. The device beeped. Then it beeped again, faster. Then it started screaming warnings. "Doctor," Talrix whispered. Her skin turned white with shock. "Doctor, look at this." Wellness looked at the scanner screen. His antenna fell flat against his head. In his 40 years of medicine, he had never seen readings like this. "This cannot be correct," he said. "Run it again." Talrix ran the scanner again. The results were the same. 4 broken ribs, left femur fractured completely through, right ankle shattered into 7 pieces, fractured pelvis, 3 vertebrae with compression fractures, broken collarbone, 2 fingers broken, nose broken, hairline fracture in the skull. 17 broken bones total. "The scanner is broken," Wellness said. "It must be. No one can walk with these injuries. No one can be conscious with these injuries." The man said from the table. "Is it bad?" Wellness turned to look at him. The human was still awake, still talking, still breathing normally. By every law of medicine, Wellness knew this creature should be dead. At minimum, he should be unconscious from shock. "What is your name?" Wellness asked quietly. "Quan Jiho. I work on the cargo freighter, Morning Star." "We were unloading at Bay 7. Jiho tried to sit up. "Do not move!" Wellness and Talrix shouted together. Jiho lay back down. Okay. Sorry." "Quan Jiho," Wellness said carefully, trying to stay calm. "You have 17 broken bones. Your leg is broken completely in half. Your spine is fractured. You should not be alive. You should definitely not be walking and talking." "Oh," Jiho thought about this. "Is that a lot? I mean, I felt the container hit me pretty hard, but I thought maybe just a few broken ribs and my leg." "A few?" Talrix's voice went high. "How are you not screaming? How are you awake?" "It hurts," Jiho admitted, "but I needed to get to medical, and I had to hit the emergency shutoff first. The container broke loose from the crane. If I didn't stop it..." It would have swung into the other workers. Wellness felt something cold in his stomach. You were hit by a cargo container? How heavy? 800 kilograms, I think. It pinned me against the bulkhead. Took me a minute to squeeze out from under it. You moved an 800-kilogram container? Talrix sat down hard. Her legs would not hold her anymore. I didn't really move it, just kind of wiggled out. Took a while. Jiho's voice was getting quieter. I'm feeling pretty tired now, though, and cold. Wellness recognized the signs. Shock was finally starting to hit. Whatever impossible thing was keeping this human functional was beginning to fade. Talrix, get the emergency trauma kit, the big one, and call Dr. Yoon. Dr. Yoon, the human xenobiologist? Yes. I need someone who understands human biology because I clearly do not. Wellness moved to Jiho's side. He pulled out an injector. I am giving you something for pain. Thanks, Jiho said. His eyes were starting to close. Sorry for the trouble. No trouble, Wellness lied. This was the most troubling case of his entire career. Stay awake for me, Jiho. Keep talking. Okay, what should I talk about? Tell me what happened, all of it. Jiho's voice was slow but clear. We were unloading medical supplies for the station, big containers, crane work. I was guiding Container 7 into position. The magnetic lock failed, just failed. The container swung loose. I saw it coming but couldn't move fast enough. It hit me and pinned me against the wall. Wellness listened while he worked, setting up monitors and preparing treatment. Each word from Jiho made the story more impossible. I couldn't breathe at first. Ribs, I guess. But then I got some air. I realized the crane was still moving. The container was going to swing again. So I dragged myself to the control panel and hit the emergency stop. You dragged yourself, with a broken pelvis and broken leg. I didn't know they were broken yet. I just knew I had to stop the crane. Jiho opened his eyes and looked at Wellness. The other workers were right there. If that container swung again... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Talrix came back with the trauma kit and a communication pad. Dr. Yoon is coming. She said she'll be here in 5 minutes. She also said... Talrix paused. She said this is normal for humans. Normal? Wellness could not believe it. This is normal? That's what she said. Wellness looked down at Jiho. The human's eyes were closed now, but he was still breathing steadily, still alive against all logic. What kind of species was this? What kind of world created beings that could walk through death itself? Dr. Yoon would have answers. She had to have answers. Because right now, Wellness felt like everything he knew about medicine had just been proven wrong by one impossible human who refused to fall. The monitors beeped steadily. Jiho's heartbeat was strong, too strong for someone with these injuries. Wellness checked his medical scanner 3 more times. The results never changed. 17 broken bones, and the patient had walked here himself. Impossible, but real. Dr. Hana Yoon arrived exactly 5 minutes later. She walked into the medical bay with calm confidence. Her lab coat was clean and pressed. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She looked at Jiho on the table and smiled. Let me guess, she said. He walked here himself. You knew? Wellness felt his antenna stand straight up with surprise. You knew this would happen? Not specifically, but I'm not surprised. Yoon moved to Jiho's side and checked the monitors. How are you feeling, Jiho? Tired. Cold. Everything hurts now. Jiho's voice was weak but steady. That's normal. Your body kept you going until you got to safety. Now it's shutting down for repairs. Yoon looked at Wellness. Did you try to sedate him yet? No. I was waiting for you. Good. Standard sedation won't work. You'll need to triple the dose for his body weight. Maybe quadruple. Talrix made a choking sound. That would kill most species. But not humans. Yoon pulled up a chair and sat down. Let me explain. Human bodies have something called adrenaline. It's a chemical our bodies make when we're in danger. We know about stress hormones, Wellness said. All species have them. Not like this. Yoon pulled out her data pad and showed them a chart. Human adrenaline is extremely powerful. When it releases, it blocks pain signals. It makes the heart pump faster. It sends extra oxygen to the muscles. It makes humans stronger and faster for a short time. For emergencies, Talrix said, understanding a little. Yes, but human adrenaline is much stronger than other species. A human with enough adrenaline can ignore almost any injury. They can lift weights that would normally be impossible. They can run on broken legs. They can keep fighting with wounds that should kill them. Wellness looked at Jiho. He had enough adrenaline to walk here with 17 broken bones? Probably. His body knew he was in danger. It knew he needed to get to safety, so it gave him the chemicals he needed to survive. Yoon smiled sadly. Evolution can be cruel. Humans come from a very dangerous planet. We needed this ability to survive. What kind of planet? Talrix asked quietly. Earth has large predators, poisonous plants, extreme weather, diseases, natural disasters. Yoon's voice was matter-of-fact. Humans are not the strongest species on Earth. We're not the fastest, we're not the biggest. But we can keep going when everything else stops. That's how we survived. She pulled up another file on her data pad. Let me tell you some stories. In human history, we have records of soldiers who kept fighting after losing limbs, mothers who lifted vehicles off their children, survivors who walked dozens of miles through deserts with broken bones. A human once cut off his own arm to escape from under a fallen rock. Wellness felt sick. That's horrifying. That's survival, Yoon corrected gently. Humans don't heal faster than other species. We're not harder to kill. But our bodies will do anything, sacrifice anything, to give us a chance to survive. Adrenaline is part of that. It buys us time. The time to get to safety, Wellness said slowly. Understanding was starting to come. Exactly. Jiho's body kept him functional long enough to stop the danger and reach medical help. Now the adrenaline is fading. His body is finally letting him feel the real damage. Yoon stood up. We need to get him into surgery soon. His bones need to be set properly. Wait, Wellness said. If humans can ignore their injuries, how do we know when they're really in danger? This was the question that had been bothering him. If Jiho could walk with 17 broken bones, what injury would actually stop a human? Yoon's face became serious. That's the difficult part. Humans can push through almost anything external. Broken bones, cuts, burns, blood loss. But internal injuries are different. If something damages the brain or heart or major organs, humans die just like anyone else. Sometimes faster because they don't realize how badly they're hurt. So they're incredibly tough and incredibly fragile at the same time? Yes. Yoon looked at Jiho. Her expression soft. Humans can survive impossible things, but we can also die from simple things we don't notice until too late. That's why human medical training emphasizes communication. We teach humans to assess their own injuries and report honestly, even when their bodies are lying to them about the pain. Especially then. Commander Thex chose that moment to arrive. The large reptilian ducked through the doorway. His scales were dark green and his eyes were yellow. He carried a data pad for his report. I'm here to take a statement about the accident, he said in his deep voice. Then he saw Jiho on the table. Is the injured worker awake? Barely, Yoon said. Good. I have questions. Thex pulled out a stylus. He needs surgery, Wellness protested. This will only take a moment. Thex moved to the table. Quan Jiho, you were operating crane number 4 in docking bay 7, correct? Yes, sir. Jiho opened his eyes. The magnetic lock on container 7 failed. The container struck you, correct? Yes, sir. According to the security footage, you were pinned for approximately 4 minutes. Then you crawled 17 meters to the control panel and activated the emergency shutdown. Then you walked 800 meters to the medical bay. Is this correct? I think so. I wasn't really counting. Thex's eyes widened. You weren't counting? You had 17 broken bones and you weren't counting? I was a bit distracted, Commander. Thex looked at Yoon. Is he serious? He walked 800 meters? Humans can do remarkable things when they need to, Yoon said simply. Remarkable? This is insane. Thex's tail hit the floor with a thud. I watched the security footage 5 times. I thought the video was damaged. No one can do what he did. Humans can, Wellness said quietly. He was starting to understand now, starting to believe. Thex shook his head. I need to file this report, but no one will believe it. He looked at Jiho. The other workers want me to thank you. You saved their lives. Just did what needed doing, Jiho said. His eyes closed again. Can I sleep now? Soon, Yoon promised. Let's get you ready for surgery first. She looked at Wellness and Talrix. I'll walk you through the sedation process. Human biology is tricky. We have high tolerance for many drugs because our livers are very efficient. It's another survival trait. Your entire species is a survival trait, Wellness muttered. True. Yoon didn't seem offended. Earth made us this way. We're not proud of it. We're not happy about it. It's just what we are. She began preparing the sedation mixture, explaining each step. 3 times the normal dose for his weight. We need to account for the adrenaline still in his system. It will fight against the sedative. Talrix measured carefully, her hands still shaking a little. What happens if we give him too much? Same thing that happens to any species. But the range between effective dose and dangerous dose is wider for humans. We're very hard to overdose by accident. Another adaptation. Wellness injected the sedative. They waited. Jiho's eyes stayed open. He's still awake, Talrix said with worry. Give it time. Human metabolism is different. Yoon checked Jiho's pulse. How do you feel? Sleepy? Finally, Jiho's words started to slur. Took you guys long enough. He's joking, Wellness realized. He's joking while sedated with triple the normal dose. Humans use humor when we're scared or in pain, Yoon explained. It's a coping mechanism, another way we deal with stress. Jiho's eyes finally closed. His breathing deepened and slowed. The monitors showed he was properly sedated at last. Okay, Wellness said, standing up straight. Let's get him to surgery. I need to set 17 broken bones. 18, actually, Yoon said, checking the scanner again. Looks like you missed a cracked rib. Of course I did. Wellness would have laughed if he wasn't so disturbed. Come on. Let's fix this impossible human. They moved Jiho to the surgical suite. As they worked, Wellness kept thinking about what he had learned. Humans were remarkable. Humans were terrifying. Humans came from a world that tried to kill them constantly, and they evolved to just keep going despite everything. He looked at Yoon, who was assisting with the surgery. She was calm and professional, just another human, doing her job, acting like all of this was completely normal. Maybe for humans, it was. That thought disturbed Wellness most of all. 3 days after surgery, Jiho was sitting up in bed. 3 days. Wellness had predicted at least 2 weeks before the human could even move without pain. But here he was, awake and alert, talking to Nurse Minji Kwan about breakfast. I'm just saying the food here is fine, but I really miss kimchi, Jiho said. He shifted in bed, wincing only slightly. I'll see what I can do, Minji said with a smile. She was human too, with kind eyes and quick hands. She had worked on the station for 5 years. The kitchen staff owes me a favor. Wellness watched from the doorway. Minji had explained to him that kimchi was a spicy, fermented food from Earth. The idea of eating fermented food while recovering from major surgery made Wellness feel ill, but Jiho seemed excited about it. "Mr. Kwan," Wellness said, entering the room, "you should be resting." "I've been resting for 3 days," Jiho argued. "I'm bored." "You have 18 healing fractures." "Yeah, but they're healing, right?" Jiho smiled. It was a genuine smile, not forced. "You did good work, Doc. I barely feel it anymore." Minji caught Wellness's expression and laughed. "He's not lying, Doctor. Humans heal with less pain than most species. Fast metabolism, good circulation, strong immune systems. We're built to recover." "Built to recover," Wellness repeated. "Because your planet kept injuring you?" "Basically, yes." Minji checked Jiho's vital signs. "Humans who couldn't heal well didn't survive to have children. Natural selection at work." Later that day, Wellness moved Jiho to the recovery ward. It was a large room with 6 beds. Other patients were there, recovering from various injuries and illnesses. When Jiho came in on crutches, everyone stared. "He's moving," whispered Rixtal from bed 3. The crystalline being's body sparkled in the light. "That human is moving." Jiho settled into bed 2 with Minji's help. He arranged his crutches beside the bed and lay back with a sigh. "Much better than the post-op room. At least I can see out the windows here." Rixtal couldn't stay quiet. "Excuse me, human. How are you walking?" "With crutches," Jiho said, then smiled. "Sorry, bad joke. I'm just using the leg that's less broken." "But you have 18 fractures." Rixtal's voice was high with distress. "I have 2 hairline cracks in my matrix. Just 2. I've been in bed for 12 days. "How long until you can move?" Jiho asked. "The doctors say 8 weeks total, maybe 9. Rixtal sounded miserable. 8 weeks of lying here, barely able to shift position. "That's rough," Jiho said with real sympathy. "I'm sorry. That must be frustrating." "But you have 18 fractures," Rixtal repeated, as if saying it again would make it make sense. 18 is more than 2. "Yeah, but they're in different types of tissue. Bones are strong. They heal pretty well with proper care." Jiho shrugged. "Plus, this isn't really my worst injury." The room went silent. Even Voon, the gaseous nebulari in bed 5, seemed to stop swirling. "Not your worst?" Rixtal finally asked. "Nah. 6 years ago I was working on Luna Colony. That's Earth's moon. Heavy construction work. A support beam fell on me. Broke my back in 3 places." Wellness, who was checking another patient, froze. "You broke your back?" "Yeah. 3 vertebrae, full fractures. Doctors on Luna fixed me up. Told me I needed 6 months of bed rest before I could work again." Jiho shifted to get comfortable. "I took 2 weeks off, then finished my contract. Couldn't let my team down. We were building a water processing plant. Colony needed it." "You worked for 4.5 months with a broken back?" Voon's voice was like wind through leaves, shocked and whispering. "I mean, it was healing, and I was careful. Didn't lift anything too heavy." Minji, who was taking notes on her datapad, shook her head. "Jiho, that was incredibly stupid." "Probably," he admitted, "but the job needed doing." "What happened after the contract ended?" Rixtal asked. The crystalline being seemed fascinated now, fear replaced by curiosity. "Full recovery. My back is fine now. Doesn't even hurt when it rains." Jiho grinned. "Though I do set off metal detectors sometimes. They put some titanium pins in me." Over the next few days, the recovery ward became a gathering place. Other patients from different rooms started visiting. Medical staff on their breaks would stop by. Everyone wanted to hear stories about humans. Minji provided her own stories. "Once I worked an entire 12-hour shift with a broken wrist. Didn't realize it was broken until the end of the shift when it swelled up. Thought it was just sprained." "How could you not know?" asked a visiting patient, a small Quarian with green skin. "Adrenaline, endorphins, and stubbornness," Minji said with a laugh. We're very good at ignoring our bodies when we need to. Jiho shared more stories. Some were his own. Some were about other humans he knew. A friend who walked 2 miles through a snowstorm with a broken ankle. A cousin who worked in a kitchen with 3 broken fingers. A ship captain who commanded her vessel through a battle with cracked ribs. Do humans not feel pain? Voon asked one day. We feel it, Jiho said seriously. Trust me, we feel it. It hurts a lot. But feeling pain and stopping because of pain are 2 different things. I don't understand the difference. Pain is information. It tells us something is wrong, but we can choose what to do with that information. Jiho thought for a moment. If I stopped every time something hurt, I would never get anything done. Earth is not a gentle place. Humans learn to work through pain because stopping meant dying. That's horrible, Rixtal said quietly. Yeah, Jiho agreed. It is. But it's also how we survived long enough to get to space. Dr. Wellness listened to these conversations. He had started keeping notes, writing down everything he observed about human patients. It was becoming clear that human medicine needed different rules. On day 6, Jiho was doing physical therapy in the ward. Minji supervised while he practiced walking with 1 crutch instead of 2. The other patients watched in amazement. Doesn't that hurt? Rixtal asked. Yes, Jiho said honestly. But I need to rebuild strength. Can't stay weak forever. You were crushed by 800 kilograms 6 days ago. Exactly. 6 days. That's almost a week. Time to start moving. Wellness pulled up the security footage from the accident that day. He had finally worked up the courage to watch it. He saw the container break loose, saw it swing toward Jiho, saw the impact, saw Jiho crushed against the wall. Then he saw what happened next. Jiho, pinned and broken, didn't scream, didn't cry for help. Instead, he immediately looked around, assessed the situation, and started planning. The footage showed him dragging himself across the floor, 1 pull at a time, leaving a trail of blood. It took him 4 minutes to reach the control panel. His face showed pain, but also determination. Pure, stubborn determination. After hitting the emergency stop, Jiho didn't collapse. He sat there for 30 seconds, breathing hard, checking that the crane had stopped, making sure everyone else was safe. Only then did he start the long walk to medical. Wellness watched the footage 3 times. Each time he felt more disturbed and more impressed. That evening he went to the recovery ward. Jiho was playing a card game with Rixtal and 2 other patients. They had modified the rules so everyone could play despite having different types of hands. Jiho, Wellness said, I watched the security footage. Jiho looked up. Oh, that must have been rough to watch. You didn't call for help. After you hit the emergency stop, you could have called for help, but you didn't. The comms panel was farther than medical, and I didn't want anyone to panic. Figured I could make it to you guys on my own. Jiho played a card. Was I wrong? No, Wellness admitted. You made it. But Jiho, you dragged yourself across the cargo bay with a broken pelvis and broken leg. Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you show more distress? Would it have helped? The question was simple, too simple, but it made Wellness realize something. No, he said slowly. It would not have helped. The other workers were on the opposite side of the bay. They couldn't reach you safely while the crane was still active. Right. So screaming would just scare them, make them do something dangerous. Better to stay quiet and fix the problem myself. That's why you walked to medical, too. You didn't want to worry your crew. They needed to finish the job. If they saw me get carried out on a stretcher, they'd be too shaken to work safely. But if they saw me walk away, they'd know I was okay enough to get help. Jiho smiled sadly. Didn't want to scare anybody. Rixtal put down the cards. You were protecting them. Even while you were dying, you were protecting them. I wasn't dying, Jiho corrected. Just really hurt. There's a difference. Wellness added another note to his journal. Humans didn't just survive impossible injuries. They thought through impossible injuries. They made logical decisions while their bodies were broken. They protected others even while they themselves needed protecting. What kind of evolution created that? What kind of world required that level of resilience, both physical and mental? Earth must be more dangerous than Wellness had imagined, and humans must be far more remarkable than anyone gave them credit for. The station's medical ethics board met in a large conference room. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table. At the head of the table sat Council Representative Kix, a Valorian with multiple tentacles and 3 eye stalks. Ambassador Taeyang Park represented humanity. He was a tall man with gray hair and a calm expression. He had served in space diplomacy for 20 years. He had been through many difficult meetings, but today's topic was unusual even for him. Let me understand this correctly, Kix said, his tentacles gesturing at the medical reports on the table. One of your species walked 800 meters with 18 broken bones. He was conscious the entire time. He even stopped to complete a work task while critically injured. That's correct, Taeyang said. This violates every principle of medical science we know. It doesn't violate human medical science. The room erupted in discussion. Multiple species talked at once. Kix raised one tentacle for silence. Ambassador Park, we need to understand human medical standards. If your people can function with catastrophic injuries, how do we know when a human is actually in danger? This was the real question, the question that had been worrying medical staff across the station. 3 days after Jiho's incident, another human had come to medical. She had a deep cut on her arm. She said it was just a scratch. The cut needed 40 stitches. Yesterday, a human engineer reported feeling a little tired. Scans showed he had a viral infection that would have killed most species. How do we assess human medical emergencies? Kix asked. You can walk through death. You can ignore fatal injuries. How do we help you if you don't show proper distress? Taeyang pulled out his data pad. Let me explain human medical communication. Humans are taught from childhood to assess and report their own condition. We use something called a pain scale. He displayed a chart showing numbers from 1 to 10, with descriptions for each level. 1 is minor discomfort. 5 is moderate pain that interferes with activities. 10 is the worst pain imaginable. Humans are trained to be honest about their pain levels. But Mr. Kwan rated his pain as a 7, Dr. Wellness said. He was attending the meeting as the treating physician. A 7 with 18 broken bones. That seems like a very low number for such severe injuries. For a human, 7 is accurate, Taeyang explained. We can imagine worse pain. We know our limits. 7 means bad pain, but manageable with help. This is insane, muttered a Saurix representative. It's calibrated differently, Taeyang continued. A human reporting pain at 10 is in true emergency. Anything 8 or above needs immediate attention. But we also train humans to report other symptoms: dizziness, confusion, numbness, breathing difficulty. These are danger signs that override what we can physically tolerate. Kix's eye stalks swiveled. So humans can survive terrible injuries but die from things they don't notice? Exactly. Taeyang's face became serious. That's the real danger. Humans evolved to push through external injuries, but internal problems like infections, organ failure, or internal bleeding can kill us before we realize how sick we are. As if on cue, the conference room door opened. A young human man stumbled in, looking confused. Sorry to interrupt, he said. I'm looking for the cafeteria. I feel a bit off. Thought food might help. Taeyang stood up immediately. What's your name? Ensign Do-Yun Cho. I work in engineering. The young man swayed slightly. Sorry, everything is kind of spinning. Wellness, scan him, now. Taeyang's voice was sharp with command. Wellness pulled out his medical scanner and ran it over Do-hyun. The device beeped frantically. His appendix has ruptured. He's going into septic shock. Wellness grabbed Do-hyun as the human's legs gave out. Medical emergency! I need a team here now! 4 medical staff rushed in with a hover stretcher. They carefully laid Do-hyun down and rushed him away. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds. The conference room was silent. That's what I mean, Taeyang said quietly. He sat back down, his hands shaking slightly. Do-hyun felt a bit off. His appendix was killing him and he thought he just needed lunch. That's the danger with humans. We can survive impossible things, but we can miss the things that will actually kill us. How did you know? Kix asked. Dizziness, confusion, looking for food when he should be working. Those are signs that something is very wrong. Humans in real danger show subtle signs, not dramatic ones. Wellness understood now. Humans were both incredibly tough and incredibly vulnerable. They could survive massive trauma but die from small problems they didn't notice. The trick was knowing which was which. What do you recommend? Kix asked. New protocols, Taeyang said. First, always scan humans regardless of what they report. We're not good at self-diagnosis. Second, take human pain ratings seriously, but understand our scale is different. Third, watch for subtle signs like confusion, dizziness, or unusual behavior. Those are bigger red flags than the injuries we can see. What about humans who refuse treatment? Asked a Quarian representative. Mr. Kwan wanted to file reports before getting surgery. That's human stubbornness, Taeyang admitted. We don't like being helpless. We don't like depending on others. It makes us feel weak, but it doesn't mean we don't need help. Sometimes you have to overrule us for our own good. Over the next 2 hours, they developed new human medical protocols. They were strange protocols, accounting for a species that could function while dying and die while functioning. But they were necessary. 6 weeks later, Jiho was back in the medical bay for a checkup. He walked in without crutches, moving normally. Wellness scanned him thoroughly. Remarkable, Wellness said, reviewing the results. Complete healing in 6 weeks? I predicted 6 months. Humans heal fast when we're properly cared for, Jiho said. You did good work, Doc. I had good teachers. Wellness looked at the scan results. You're cleared to return to full duty, but please, try not to get crushed by any more cargo containers. I'll do my best. Jiho smiled. No promises, though. It's dangerous work. Everything is dangerous for humans, apparently. Not really. Earth is dangerous. Space is actually pretty safe in comparison. Jiho stood up. Thanks for everything, Doc. You saved my life. You saved your own life by getting here. I just repaired the damage. After Jiho left, Dr. Yoon stopped by. She had been consulting on the new human medical protocols. How is he? She asked. Perfect recovery. He'll be loading cargo again next week. Wellness pulled up his medical journal. Yoon, I need to ask you something. I've been studying human cases for weeks now. I've read your evolutionary history. I understand the biology, but I still don't understand why. Why what? Why humans push so hard? Why you don't quit even when you should? Jiho could have called for help. He chose to save himself. Why? What makes humans like this? Yoon thought for a long moment. Humans spent millions of years barely surviving. We were weaker than the predators, slower than our prey. We had no claws, no venom, no armor. All we had was our minds and our refusal to give up. Your stubbornness. Yes, our stubbornness. The humans who gave up when things got hard didn't survive. The ones who kept going despite pain, despite fear, despite logic telling them to quit. Those humans survived. They had children. Those children inherited that same stubbornness. Yoon smiled. Natural selection didn't just make us tough. It made us too stubborn to know when to quit. That's both impressive and concerning. It's who we are. For better or worse. Wellness looked at his journal. He had filled pages with observations about humans, their resilience, their pain tolerance, their determination, their vulnerability. He had learned more about xenobiology in 6 weeks than in 40 years of practice. "I'm writing a paper," he said, "about Death World species adaptations, specifically about humans." "What's your conclusion?" "That humans are the most remarkable and most dangerous species I've ever studied. Not because you're strong, not because you're smart, but because you absolutely refuse to accept defeat. You'll fight impossible odds. You'll survive impossible injuries. You'll keep going when any reasonable being would stop." Is that a compliment? I honestly don't know. Wellness closed his journal. "But I'm very glad humans are our allies and not our enemies." Yoon laughed. "Me too, Doctor. Me too." Later that day, Ensign Do-Yun was released from medical. His appendix surgery had been successful. He walked out healthy and slightly embarrassed that he had almost died from feeling a bit off. The new human medical protocols were officially adopted station-wide. Medical staff across Epsilon 7 received training on human biology, human communication styles, and human stubborn refusal to admit when they needed help. Wellness added one final note to his journal. Humans did not evolve to be fearless. They evolved to be terrified and act anyway. This is what makes them dangerous. This is what makes them valuable. This is what makes them human. 3 months passed. Station Epsilon 7 returned to normal operations. But something had changed. The alien workers viewed humans differently now. When human freight crews came through the station, people watched them with new eyes. Eyes full of respect and a little bit of fear. The story of Jiho walking through death had spread through the station like wildfire. Then it spread to other stations, then to trade ships. Soon, every spacer in the sector knew about the human who refused to fall. Kwon Jiho went back to work on the Morning Star. His cargo loading skills were as good as ever, better even. He moved carefully now, always checking the equipment twice. The accident had taught him respect for safety procedures. But it hadn't made him afraid. Nothing seemed to make humans afraid. Captain Sujin Nam commanded the Earth freight vessel, Persistence. Her ship had just docked at Epsilon 7 for resupply. She was a short woman with strong hands and a no-nonsense attitude. She had been hauling cargo in space for 15 years. As she walked through the station, she noticed the stairs. Alien workers watched her crew with careful respect. They moved aside in the corridors. They spoke politely, almost nervously. "Captain Nam," called Aquarian dock supervisor, "your cargo is ready for loading. We've assigned our best crew to assist." "Thank you." Sujin noticed the supervisor's nervous posture. "Is something wrong?" "No, Captain. We just want to ensure everything is done safely. Very safely. With humans, we take extra precautions." Sujin didn't understand, but she nodded and moved on. In the station's main commerce area, she met up with Jiho. They were old friends, had worked on the same ships years ago. "Jiho, good to see you walking around." Sujin grinned and shook his hand. "Good to see you too, Captain." Jiho smiled. "How's the Persistence?" "Running smooth. We're hauling medical supplies to the outer colonies. Should be a quiet run." They found a cafe and sat down. Around them, alien patrons whispered and stared. Sujin finally asked what was bothering her. "Why is everyone looking at us like we're about to explode?" Jiho laughed. "You haven't heard? I'm famous now. The human who walked through death. Or something dramatic like that." "What are you talking about?" So Jiho told her the story. The accident, the 18 broken bones, the walk to medical, the aliens' shock and confusion. Sujin listened with growing amusement. 18 broken bones? That's got to be a personal record. Please don't sound impressed. Dr. Wellness already thinks we're crazy. We are crazy. We're humans in space. That's basically the definition of crazy. Sujin sipped her coffee. But seriously, the aliens really freaked out about this? They couldn't understand it. Most species can't function with major injuries. Their bodies shut down. But humans just keep going. It's not that special, Sujin said. Remember the Titan incident? Captain Minho kept his ship flying for 3 days with broken ribs and a concussion. Got everyone home safe. I remember. Or the time engineer Boyoung fixed a reactor leak while her leg was broken, saved the whole station. They traded stories as spacers do. Every human in space had stories like this. Injuries that were worked through, pain that was ignored, impossible situations that humans somehow survived. To them, it was just part of the job. To everyone else, it was terrifying proof that humans were different. The alarm went off while they were finishing their coffee. The station's emergency system screamed warnings. Automated voices announced a crisis in the agricultural section. Hull breach, structural failure, multiple workers trapped. Sujin and Jiho ran toward the emergency, along with dozens of others. The station's emergency response team was already there, but they had stopped at the entrance to the agricultural section. "Why aren't they going in?" Sujin demanded. A Saurix emergency coordinator turned to her, his reptilian face showing distress. "The structure is unstable. There's radiation leaking from damaged systems. The automated repair systems are offline. Someone needs to go in and manually override the airlock to get the trapped workers out. So send someone in. Captain, anyone who goes in there will receive a lethal dose of radiation. The structure could collapse at any moment. It's a death sentence." Sujin looked at the sealed entrance, looked at the scanner showing 6 life signs trapped inside. 6 people who would die if someone didn't help them. "What needs to be done?" she asked. "Captain, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. 6 people need help. Tell me what needs to be done." The coordinator hesitated, then pulled up a schematic. "Someone needs to reach the manual override panel. It's 30 meters inside. The radiation level will be critical. The structure could collapse. Even if they succeed, they'll need immediate medical treatment for radiation exposure." "How long will it take?" "To reach the panel, enter the override code and get back. 3 minutes, maybe 4. 3 minutes. Sujin looked at Jiho. He was already checking his pressure suit seals. "I'm in," Jiho said simply. "Me too," Sujin confirmed. 2 other humans from the Persistence crew stepped forward. Engineers Hyun and Ara, both young, both experienced, both determined. "Captain, you don't have to do this," the coordinator said desperately. "We can try to—" "Try what? Wait for them to die." Sujin's voice was hard. "Give us the override code and get medical ready. We're going in." The coordinator looked at all the aliens standing around. None of them could survive what the humans were volunteering to do. The radiation alone would kill most species in minutes. The structural instability was a nightmare. This was suicide, but the humans were checking their suits calmly, efficiently, like this was just another job. "Humans are insane," the coordinator muttered. But he gave them the code. The 4 humans entered the agricultural section. The door sealed behind them. On the monitors, everyone watched their vital signs. Watched the radiation counters climb. Watched the structural integrity warnings flash. Inside, the section was a disaster. Broken equipment everywhere. Sparking wires. A massive crack running across the ceiling. The radiation counter on Sujin's suit was beeping constantly. "Ignore the beeping," she told her team. "Focus on the job." They moved quickly but carefully. The floor was unstable. One wrong step could trigger a collapse. But they reached the trapped workers. 6 Quarians huddled in a small room, terrified and injured. "We're getting you out," Hyun said. "Stay calm." Jiho reached the override panel. His hands were steady as he entered the code. The airlock doors opened. Ara and Hyun helped the Quarians move. Sujin checked the structure above them. "Move fast," she ordered. "This whole section is coming down." They got the Quarians to safety, got them through the door. But as the last one cleared, a support beam cracked. The ceiling started to fall. "Run!" Sujin shouted. The 4 humans sprinted for the exit. The structure collapsed behind them. Metal and debris fell like rain. They dove through the door just as the agricultural section caved in completely. They lay on the floor outside, breathing hard. Radiation alarms were screaming. Medical teams rushed forward with scanners and emergency equipment. "You're all insane," the Sorix coordinator said, but his voice held awe, not anger. Dr. Wellness arrived, moving fast on his 6 legs. He scanned each human quickly. "Radiation exposure, multiple contusions, possible concussions." His voice was clinically calm, but his antennae were vibrating. "All of you to medical bay, now!" "Are the Quarians okay?" Sujin asked. "Yes, thanks to you. Now move before I have you carried." In the medical bay, the 4 humans were treated for radiation exposure. It was serious, but not lethal. They would recover fully with proper care. The treatment would take a few days. One of the rescued Quarians came to visit. His name was Vix, and his skin was pale green with shock. "Captain Nam," he said quietly. "Why did you do that? You knew it was deadly." 6 people needed help. Sujin's voice was matter-of-fact. "What else were we supposed to do?" "Wait for a safer option. Let the rescue teams figure something out." "There wasn't time. You would have died." "But you almost died." Sujin looked at him with patient eyes. "Almost died isn't the same as died. We knew the risks. We chose to take them. That's all." Vix was silent for a long moment. "Humans volunteer for certain death." "No," Jiho corrected from the next bed. "We volunteer for uncertain death. Big difference. There's always a chance, always a way through. You just have to be willing to try. Even when logic says you'll fail? Especially then." Dr. Wellness entered the room checking charts. He looked at Sujin and her crew. "You're all idiots," he said without anger. "Brave idiots, but idiots nonetheless." "We've been called worse," Sujin said with a smile. That evening, Wellness returned to his office. He opened his medical journal, the one he'd been keeping about human biology. He turned to the last page and wrote his final entry. "After 3 months of observation, I have reached my conclusion about humans. They are not fearless. Fear is sensible, and humans are very sensible. They understand danger. They know death. They are terrified of both. But humans do something that no other species I've studied can do. They act despite their fear. They volunteer for impossible tasks. They walk through death to save others. They refuse to accept that some things cannot be done. This is not bravery. This is not stupidity. This is something uniquely human. They call it determination. I call it terrifying. But I am grateful that humans are on our side, because a species that refuses to quit, refuses to fail, refuses to accept defeat, that species will either save the galaxy or doom it. I pray for the former." Wellness closed the journal. Outside his window, he could see the Persistence preparing to depart. Captain Nam and her crew would be leaving in a few days once they recovered. They would go back to hauling cargo, doing their dangerous work, acting like heroes without even realizing it. The station administrator released a new memo that evening. All new medical personnel reporting to Epsilon 7 would receive mandatory training on human biology. The memo included 3 key points. 1. If a human says they're fine, scan them anyway. They don't know what fine means. 2. If a human says they're in trouble, assume catastrophe. They don't ask for help until it's serious. 3. If a human says, "Hold my drink," clear the area immediately and prepare for chaos. The memo was meant to be serious medical advice, but it quickly became a joke among station personnel. A joke that was also completely true. Humans had changed Epsilon 7. They had changed how aliens viewed medical care, safety protocols, and emergency response. They had proven that sometimes the impossible was just difficult. And that difficult was no reason to quit. 3 months after Jiho walked through death, Station Epsilon 7 was a safer place. Not because humans made it safer through technology or rules, but because humans had shown everyone else that giving up was a choice, and that choosing not to give up could save lives. Jiho returned to loading cargo. Sujin returned to hauling freight. Hyun and Ara went back to engineering. They were just humans doing their jobs. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. To them. To everyone else in the galaxy, they were walking proof that Earth produced something unique. Something terrifying, something wonderful. They produced humans. And humans refused to fall.